Welcome back to my channel. This is Pharma Info with Shubhashish. Now today the topic which we are going to deal with is QACR, right? Okay. You might have followed my previous video on drug design and all, right? So there I basically focused on the different or the several strategies, right, which are adapted in the process of drug design, right? And especially I emphasized on the computer-aided drug design, right? Computer-aided drug design. Apart from computer-aided drug design, because when there was no computer, right? So that time also drug design was there, right? So designing was there. Designing was on that time also. Okay, how it was done that we'll see later, right? But the one that is kept in your syllabus, that is mostly on computer, right? That means it should be a computer-aided one, right? Now, under computer-aided drug design, as I said yesterday only, or in my last video, that is one of the strategies found to be, or the strategies which are being adapted is found to be structure-based drug design, which can be further split into two types. One is found to be a macromolecule-based. The other one is your small molecule or ligand-based, right? Okay. In case of macromolecule-based, we have seen that yes, we can frequently opting for this molecular docking study. Okay, in that we have several methods are there, or several softwares are there, okay, with which we can at least run the docking program and all, right? But coming to this small molecule or ligand based, there we have to opt for this QACR, right? QACR, sometimes your these things also, right? Your pharmacophore modeling or pharmacophore based design, right? Sometimes yes, sometimes like ab initio process, right? We have few more, right? Few more which are also found to be ligand based or small molecule based, right? Okay. Now, so today the topic which we are going to deal with is QACR, right? Because we have seen that under ligand based or small molecule based drug design, okay, their QACR actually is occupying what I should share, that 50 to 60% of that particular thing. That means it is the QACR method, right, which is found to be crowded, right? So there is a big crowd of QACR in that particular domain. Okay, that is the domain of ligand based drug design or small molecule based drug design, right? Now QACR, if we just try to focus on QACR, basically QACR, they are of 6 types, okay, starting from 1D to 2D, 3D, 4D, 5D, 6D. But especially in UG syllabus framed by PCI, so they are only asking us to deal with this 2D QACR, right? And that too, under 2D QACR they have mentioned, okay, few parameters and all, okay, those parameters only you have to study, and apart from that those parameters definitely belong to this 2D QACR, not the 3D QACR, because they are not expecting us, so they are not asking us to go through or to deal with this 3D QACR, only 2D QACR. That means the traditional QACR, right? That means the traditional QACR. And in my last video I mentioned that okay, basically QACR deals with what, or through QACR what exactly, or with this QACR what exactly we are trying to establish, right? Actually QACR, what for QACR is done, and the principle of this QACR is nothing but, here it's a correlation study, okay, assuming that okay, from the ACR we have borrowed the concept that yes, it is the substituent contribution of which alters the biological response, right? So if that is the case, we can say that if substituents are responsible, in that case definitely it is the property, by virtue of certain property only the substituents are altering the biological response, right? Okay, and those properties, either it can be a chemical property or it can be a physical property. So as a whole we can say it is the physico-chemical properties of a particular substituent while being associated with a molecular framework, that is nothing but your drug or compound, right? While being associated with a molecular framework and all, how they are altering the biological response, right? So the physico-chemical properties of a particular substituent while being accompanied with a particular drug, okay, how it is altering the biological activity, right? So that means in QACR, the basic motto of QACR is, or as I said, that we'll focus on 2D QACR, right? So be it 2D QACR or 3D QACR, the primary intention behind that is just to frame, or just to develop a correlation between what? Between biological activity with its PC property. That is physico-chemical properties, right? Or in other words, we can say this property is nothing but parameters, right? Parameters, or sometimes they also call it as descriptors. Okay, that means with this certain property, with this particular property, it is contributing towards the overall activity, right? Because activity is already there. Upon modification, we have recognized that, okay, chalo, the activity increases, the activity decreases, okay? That means it is the substituent which is contributing either in a positive way or a negative way, okay, to alter the biological activity. It's not that ki biological activity was not there and we are just substituting a particular thing. It's not like that, right? We are just trying to estimate that how much the substituent is involved in altering the biological response. Got my point, right? Chalo. So that is the case. So biological activity and PC property, okay, how they are related and all, right? Okay. So if that is the case, under 2D QACR, so 2D QACR is basically, so here, as I say, descriptors, physico-chemical properties. What are those? Something like HOMO, LUMO. You might have heard about HOMO, LUMO. That is highest occupied molecular orbital, as well as highly occupied or highest occupied, and at the same time lowest occupied, lowest unoccupied, LUMO. LUMO, that is lowest unoccupied molecular orbital, right? Like your molecular size, molecular shape, then your partition coefficient, then substituent constant, lipophilic substituent constant, some electronic parameters like your Hammett constant, some steric parameters like your Tufts steric factor, then your molar refraction or molar refractivity, right? Then paracore, right? Okay, these are the descriptors that are quite often being brought while dealing with QACR, especially the 2D QACR, right? So up till now, around 3,500 descriptors they have isolated, right? They have identified 3,500 descriptors. Definitely we are not going to deal with each and every one of them, right? Okay, because they have put a constraint. The PCI people, they have put a constraint on that particular syllabus, right? So that means you are supposed to deal with few descriptors or few parameters or few physico-chemical properties which are altering the biological activity, right? Okay. तो चलो इसी हिसाब से हमको जो देखना है, around 3,500 descriptors are there, but we'll focus on few things like partition coefficient, then your Hammett substituent constant, then your Tufts steric factor and all these things, okay? And so once we are done with this, once we are familiar with these descriptors and all, then we'll just try to frame the equation, that is the mathematical equation, the final outcome or final output of 2D QACR, okay? So after running this 2D QACR with a series of compounds along with their physico-chemical properties as well as the biological activity, right? And after that, at the end of the show, at the verge of the completion, you have to generate an equation with all these descriptors, because all are involved in altering the biological activity. So what all the descriptors that you are going to incorporate in the study, okay, all the data has to be accumulated, right? And with those data, we are just trying to frame the interrelationship between the biological activity and those data. With that, we are going to get a particular mathematical equation, right? So this is the outcome, and with this and from this mathematical equation, consider the mathematical equation as a model. We are just trying to generate or develop what? A novel compound. That means, as I said, drug design. That means we have to design a novel compound, okay? So this is the platform from which this is the predictor from which we are going to generate a novel compound. That means it is the mathematical equation from which we have to generate, we have to develop, we have to design a novel compound, because the basic aim is to develop the novel compound. And how it can be developed? How it can be developed? By dealing with a series of compounds, right? A series of compounds, their structures, their physico-chemical properties as well as their biological activity. That means these are found to be the prerequisites, the essential things in order to initiate the process. So in order to initiate the process, all you need a series of compounds. The compounds are not at all virtual compounds. The compounds have already been synthesized, chemically characterized, though we do not require any kind of analytical data. Chemically characterized, biologically evaluated. That means the biological data should be there. That means the compound, the structure along with their biological data, right? These two things are found to be one of the essential things. Until and unless you are not done with this collection and all, okay, you cannot run the QACR study, be it any kind of QACR, 2D QACR or 3D QACR, right? Okay, so in 2D QACR, the aim is clear, right? With this 2D QACR, you are just trying to develop a mathematical equation or generate a mathematical equation. Through that equation, you are going to develop what? You are going to design what? A novel compound, right? Okay, and this equation, how it has been developed? By accumulating the contribution of each and every substituents, contribution pertaining to and contribution how it is coming by virtue of their properties. Which property? Chemical as well as physical properties. That means the substituents contribution towards the overall activity. So that means as a whole, that means each and every physico-chemical properties has to be studied, the data has to be generated, and it has to be plugged in that particular equation, which involves biological activity equals to the summation of all those physico-chemical properties or parameters, right? Okay. So with that, we are done with the initial things of this 2D QACR and all, right? Now we'll start our journey with the descriptors, right? Okay, in your syllabus, actually they are asking us to deal with certain parameters, 3 to 4 parameters they have given. But anyway, in addition to this 3 to 4 parameters, I'll just highlight another 2 to 3, right? Okay. Let's deal with this partition coefficient, the first descriptor, right? The first descriptor in 2D QACR. Okay. So partition coefficient, what is partition coefficient? We all know that partition coefficient is nothing but it's a relative distribution of what? Distribution of a solute in two immiscible phases or immiscible liquids, right? That means one is aqueous, the other one is organic, like your n-octanol water system, right? Usually we are using this one, right? So that means the solute, whether it is distributed in both the phases in a similar proportion or is there any difference in the proportion, right? That determines the quality or the property of that particular solute, whether the solute is found to be hydrophobic or hydrophilic. Suppose ki the proportion of this solute in n-octanol layer is found to be more. In that case, what conclusion that can be drawn? That is, the solute is found to be more hydrophobic, not hydrophilic. If it is found to be a hydrophilic one, you are not supposed to find the large proportion in the n-octanol layer. Rather, you can find large proportion in the aqueous phase. That means the water layer, right? Okay. So that means this has been exploited in drug study. Whether the drug is found to be a hydrophobic or hydrophilic, that can be judged or that can be determined through partition coefficient, right? Okay. So partition coefficient, how it is related or how it is influencing what? How it is influencing the biological activity, that we are going to see, right? Okay. Now, as such, if we just try to find some relation between biological activity and the partition coefficient, okay, basically you can find a linear relation, right? A straight line relation, right? Like if we just put here log 1 by c, log p, okay, the partition coefficient in log form, and here it is log 1 by c. That means we are expecting what? If it is a drug, that means we should need or we must need a least concentration. That means at a least concentration the drug can work better, right? So that is why 1 by c, log 1 by c. So log 1 by c is nothing but the biological activity, and here it is log p, right? Now if the range of the partition coefficient lies within suppose ki 1 to 5 or max to max 1 to 5 or 1 to 4, right? Okay, in that case what you can find that the relation is found to be a linear one. That means with the increase in the log p value, you can find an increase in the log 1 by c. That is biological activity. That means it is found to be directly proportional, and that is why you can get what? A linear relation, right? But so this is found to be applicable, okay, in case of general anesthetics, right? Why? Because why I am using the example, why I brought that example of general anesthetics, because it is a general anesthetics. We can say that general anesthetics basically they operates in the cell membrane, right? So that means here the hydrophobic feature is found to be an important parameter, right? Which has to be taken into consideration, right? If the general anesthetics are found to be poorly hydrophobic, definitely it will get repelled from the cell membrane. Why? Because most of the general anesthetics they operates in the cell membrane only, right? Okay, they do not require any kind of receptor and all, right? They should not interact with any kind of active site of the receptor and all. Why? Because from general anesthetics, you are not supposed to get any kind of intrinsic activity. So that is why general anesthetics, most of the general anesthetics, they are not being considered as a drug, rather adjuvant, right? So that means they are working at the cell membrane level only. Okay, cell membrane level only, and they do not require any kind of drug receptor interaction, any kind of interaction with the active site of the receptor, right? Okay, they don't have any specific receptor. Okay, we have few more like your benzodiazepines, barbiturates, okay, but their primary use is not found to be general anesthetics, right? Their primary use is found to be sedative, hypnotic, or anti-anxiety drug or anti-convulsant drug. It is the additional things that we can get, that can be exploited, okay, in dealing with anesthesia and all, right? Okay, chalo. So it has been observed that partition coefficient is found to be one of the important parameter, right, which is often been observed while dealing with the general anesthetics, right? Why? Because it is the partition coefficient from which we can get the hydrophobic contribution of the entire molecule. Okay, it is the data of partition coefficient that will reveal whether the general anesthetic is found to be largely hydrophobic or less hydrophobic. With that, we can estimate, or we can assess the quality of the general anesthetic, right? Okay. So if that is the case, what we observe here, if the log P lies within this range, we can find a linear relationship, right? But does it mean that we can raise the log P ad infinitum? If we raise the log P ad infinitum, what will happen? What will happen? Can we get the linear relation? Can we get the linear relation? If not, why? Because if for a particular entity to be more hydrophobic, they are more susceptible towards metabolism. They are more susceptible towards metabolism. So that is why you are not supposed to get what? The biological activity. Why? Because the moment you are raising the hydrophobicity that is beyond 4 or beyond 5, what will happen? It will readily be susceptible or taken up by what? The liver microzone. So as a result of it, what will happen? Or sometimes it has also been found that raising the hydrophobicity will further lead to what? Depotization. That means prior reaching the site of action, it will get depotized. So that means the site of action will be deprived of the concentration of what? The drug. That is another reason. That is, if you just raise the log P value ad infinitum, you are not supposed to get ad infinitum level of biological response, right? So that is why they have set a limit. So what they observe or what they are telling, that for a general anesthetics to be optimally active, to function in an optimum level, it should have an optimum log P value of 2. Though they have set this limit, but for a general anesthetics to be optimally active, the log P value should be 2. This is found to be the optimum log P value of a good, what? Good general anesthetics, right? Okay. So now the next question is, then what will happen? If I further raise the hydrophobicity, what will happen to the biological activity? Definitely it will drop. I'll come to it. But before that, let me just find an equation. Is there an equation that is possible for this? So how the equation can be framed? If the relationship is found to be a linear one, the relation will be something like log 1 by C, or biological activity, you can write something like this. That equals to K1 log P plus K2. This is a simple relationship, like y equals to mx plus c, right? Straight line, because if the log P resides within this range, lies within this range, so that time we can find a linear relationship, right? So that is why the equation will be something like this. This is the equation that we can develop, right? But what will happen if I just go beyond the limit? Go beyond the limit. That means if I just exceed the limit set by them, that means if it is more than 5 or more than 4, what will happen to the biological activity? That we'll see. Whether the graph will remain same, whether the equation will remain same, or is there any alteration, right? That we'll see. Okay. Now let us see that what will happen. Okay, whether the graph will remain same or not, right? If we just if we are exceeding the limit of log P, right? What will happen? Suppose the log P here is found to be 6, which should not be there, right? It should not be, right? It should not be like that. Log P is found to be 6, right? It should not be like that. Why? Because as per Lipinski's rule of 5, you might have learned Lipinski's rule of 5. Lipinski's rule of 5, okay. It states that the log P for a particular molecular skeleton, which you can visualize as a drug, right? Okay. It should not exceed 5. This is the first statement of Lipinski's rule of 5, right? Lipinski's rule of 5, but you can say that okay, nowadays it has been changed. Okay, no longer they are stick to or they are following this Lipinski's rule of 5, right? Now I think after 2002, right? Okay, it has been modified by Webers, another scientist, right? Okay, in that Webers parameter, I think log p value was not being kept, right? It was not kept in that Webers parameter, the newly one, right? After 2002, they are following Ghosh and Webers parameter, right? Ghosh and Webers parameter. Their log p was not there. Log p was not found to be the significant criteria, right? To be followed, right? Okay, what they observe, right? Okay, this is a different thing, right? We'll find some other time to deal with this Lipinski's rule of 5 and all. Let us see what will happen if it exceeds 6, right? Okay, now if we just try to draw a particular graph with this data, that is log 6, right? Log p is found to be 6. What will happen to the biological activity? Okay, let us just put log 1 by c here, and as usual log p here, right? Okay, how it goes? So initially what we can find, if we start from 1, okay, same as that of linear, right? So after that what will happen? It will just fall down. Okay, crossing the limit eventually leads to what? The declining phase, right? It declines, biological activity drops. Okay, so that means a parabolic relation. So definitely the equation should be changed, right? We cannot follow the same, we cannot put the same equation for both the straight line as well as parabolic curve and all, graph and all, right? Okay, so now the thing is that how it goes then the equation will come something like this: log 1 by c equals to minus k1 log p whole square plus k2 log p plus k3, like this, right? So this is the equation for what? When the log p exceeds the limit set by them, exceeds the optimal limit, right? Assume that the optimal limit is found to be 5, right? And we are talking about 6, right? So that means it has crossed the limit, it has been exceeded, right? So in that case the graph will be parabolic. Okay, so this is the optimum one, we can just call it as log p naught, right? Log p naught, this is the optimum one. Okay, after that when it crosses this particular limit, what will happen to the biological activity? It drops. Okay, it drops. So that means you cannot raise the log p value ad infinitum. Okay, there is no such relation between the log p and log 1 by c when you raise it to ad infinitum, right? It will not be a linear relation, right? It will become a parabolic one, and the equation is something like this. Now the thing is that let us just deal with the first half of this particular graph, right? The first half of this particular graph is dominated by this term, right? Why? Because here log p, that is partition coefficient value, is very small, right? And we have put a minus here, log p square. So at that time, so if we just consider the initial log p, that is initial partition coefficient, which are found to be very small, right? For a small range, okay, the equation is dominated by the second half, that is k2 log p. Okay, but if we raise it to a certain level where it exceeds the normal limit, then the equation, then this particular term is found to be significant. That means while increasing the log p, there is a sharp decline in the biological activity, right? So this is the thing for the log p which are found to be low, that means within the limit, right? So this is the portion which is attributed to the second half of this particular parabolic curve, right? Why? Because when the log p is found to be large, as we have put minus, when the log p is found to be large, value is large, then only you can find some kind of correlation. That means raising the log p leads to the decrease in biological activity. Raising the log p leads to the decrease in biological activity, right? So this is found to be the equation for this log p, how it is interrelated. Okay, are they interrelated or not? That means whether the biological activity depends on the log p or not. Okay, that we have seen, right? Now the thing is that now let us deal with some a problem and all, right? What kind of problem? Say we all know that hydrophobicity is not found to be the one and only criteria with which a drug is interacting with its target, right? few category of drugs as well as adjuvants are there, in which hydrophobicity is found to be the most important parameter to be considered, right? But most of the drugs, but in order to interact with the target, amino acids, hydrophobicity is not found to be the only criteria. That is one of the criteria. So that means, but the revelation of log P is what this partition coefficient reveals. The partition coefficient reveals not the substituent contribution, rather the overall contribution of the drug. And considering a particular drug, we cannot say that each and every point of that particular molecular skeleton is responsible for hydrophobicity, is contributing in a hydrophobic way, right? Because we have several functional groups, okay, and their role is found to be different, right? For each and every functional groups which are associated in a molecule, their role is not to elevate the hydrophobic level, right? Okay, their role is not found to elevate the hydrophobic level, right? Okay, they are having some, because they are working in a different level. Suppose ki a particular molecular skeleton is holding hydroxyl, is holding a methyl, is holding an amino group. Can we say that all three are meant for hydrophobicity? Can we say that the hydrophobic feature is existing in all three functional groups? No. It is the methyl straightway blindly we can say, through which we can get the hydrophobic contribution, right? But, and as I said that this is found to be, these three functional groups, they are found to be a part and parcel of what? Part and parcel of a molecular skeleton, right? Molecular skeleton. That means it is the template, it is the central body that is holding hydroxyl, that is holding methyl, that is holding amino, right? Okay. Now with that and through log P, we are getting the overall contribution. You are not in a position to say at the end of the picture, at the end of the show, that it is because of this methyl we are getting the hydrophobicity. The log P, through log P reveals what? Log P tells what? It tells about the overall hydrophobicity, how it is affecting the biological activity. Okay, it cannot say the contribution of a particular substituent. That means here the substituent contribution cannot be determined with the help of log P. This is the biggest limitation of log P determination in QSS study, especially 2D QSS study. And for that very reason only, though they have not kept this particular descriptor in your syllabus, but let me tell you just a brief of it, that what is the thing which can at least subside the limitation, okay, which can at least suppress the limitation, okay. That is the descriptor that they invented is called pi, that is lipophilic or hydrophobicity substituent constant or lipophilic substituent constant, right? Lipophilic substituent constant. So the name itself reveals, the name itself says that lipophilic substituent, that means the substituents which are contributing hydrophobically, okay, can be determined with the help of this particular constant, right? So lipophilic substituent constant, okay, which is denoted with pi, okay. It is not there in your syllabus, but still I am telling you why, because as I said, the limitation, that means I should at least tell you the way by which we can cross the limitation. We can just remove the limitation, right? Okay, that is nothing but we can break the jinx, right? So that is nothing but lipophilic substituent constant. So here, with the help of this pi value, and let me tell you, the pi value can be determined with the help of log P value, right? So here basically pi equals to what they are telling, that is log px by ph. Okay, so here also it is derived from the partition coefficient. What is that px? ph is the standard compound. Standard is the benzene, right? And px is the substituted benzene. Suppose ki like this. So what exactly they are doing, that is they are getting the log P value for both these compounds, right? So both these compounds, log P value they are first determining, right? And after that they are getting the log P, subtracting the value will give them the value of x. Subtracting the value, suppose we have got 2.13, right, for this, and for this benzene we have got 2.00, right? Subtracting the value will fetch you what? Will fetch you the contribution of this x, okay? Contribution of this x. So through this we can at least say that whether if the compound is showing hydrophobicity, it is because of which substituent it is showing hydrophobicity. That can be readily explored with the help of this constant. That is called lipophilic substituent constant or hydrophobic substituent constant. Anything, okay? Hydrophobic substituent constant, right? Lipophilic, hydrophobic, both are found to be synonymous, right? Okay. So this is about your lipophilic substituent constant. Now, before leaving or before putting a full stop for today's discussion, right? Let me just explain another thing. Okay, we talked about this log P value, right? Partition coefficient, right? Now, one thing, through partition coefficient, we can at least predict whether the compound is found to be a hydrophobic or hydrophilic, right? Whether it is a hydrophobic or moderately hydrophobic, largely hydrophobic, poorly hydrophobic or hydrophilic, right? Okay, so this is the thing that we are just trying to get from this log P determination, right? Okay, now my question is, can we say that RF, that is retention factor, okay, which we are using in case of TLC, that is thin layer chromatography or chromatography rather, right? Can we say that this RF is a suitable substitute for this log P? Yes, why not? Because through RF also you can predict what? You can at least assess whether the compound or compounds are found to be hydrophobic or hydrophilic. Why? Because see, RF is another parameter, okay, which is used, though it is not there in your syllabus framed by PCI, right? But still, RF is another parameter which is used, okay, and modified one is RM, okay. These are the parameters which are also used, okay, in dealing with QAs here. RF is retention factor. That is the thing which is there in TLC or chromatography rather. Chromatography. Right? Now we are in the process to at least whether are they functioning in a parallel way, okay, can we say that RF is found to be a suitable substitute for this log P that we are just trying to establish, okay. Now in the process of establishing the role of RF, whether it is equal in the productivity or it is superseding log P, that we are just trying to see, right? Okay, through RF what exactly we are trying to do? We are just trying to check whether how many components are there. First thing is that in a mixture for which we are just going to perform the TLC and all, first thing is that we are just ascertaining that whether the mixture comprised of how many components, right? Okay, so how many components means, suppose we have a TLC plate like this. We have a TLC plate like this, and we have applied the spot here, a spot of an extract, right? Okay, and after running it up to a certain level, okay, after developing it in a mobile phase and all, we have just, and after developing it in under UV and all, we have got 3 spots. One is here, one is here, and one is here, right? Okay, and you have taken the solvent system like normal hexane, ethyl acetate. Normal hexane, ethyl acetate, okay, at a ratio of 9:1. So here the proportion of normal hexane, that is proportion of non-polar solvent, is found to be more, and the proportion of moderately polar solvent is found to be less, okay, 9:1, right? Chalo. So, and we know that it is the plate, that silica gel coated plate, right? Silica gel itself is a polar one, right? Now from these 3 components, what kind of quality that we can assess, right? Okay. Now the thing is that though we have got 3 spots, but 3 spots are appearing in 3 different places. So that means 3 spots are having 3 different RF, right? Now let us just deal with the first one. That means the one which has not left not even a single millimeter from the point of application, right? That is the first one, right? Okay, and it is under UV only. We have just found this 3 spots and all, right? Okay, so why it has not left? Okay, through this, what kind of quality that we can assess whether this particular compound is hydrophobic or hydrophilic? Can it be known through this? Yes, let us see. Now why it has not left? We have taken the mobile phase as normal hexane ethyl acetate 9:1, right? Okay, and the stationary phase here is nothing but silica gel, which is found to be polar, right? So that means as it has not traveled with the mobile phase, what does it mean? That means the affinity towards the stationary phase is found to be more than that of mobile phase for this particular point, for this particular component, right? So through this we can say this is found to be more hydrophilic. This is found to be more hydrophilic compared to this. Why? Because it has traveled a particular distance, right? At least it has traveled, okay, it leaves the point of application, okay, traveled a smaller distance and stop, right? So that means it is found to be less what we can say, less hydrophobic, okay, but not more hydrophobic, but not that much hydrophilic as that of this. Now coming to the topmost one, that means it has traveled along with the mobile phase. What does it mean? That means it has grown an affinity towards the large proportion of non-polar solvent. That means this is found to be the largely hydrophobic component, right? So this is found to be the hydrophobic component, this is found to be the hydrophilic component, both the extremes, right? And this is found to be the intermediate one. That means an amalgamation of both hydrophilicity and hydrophobicity, right? So that means, one in other way we can say, that means here also the output is found to be more or less similar, whether it is hydrophobic or hydrophilic, okay? Then what are the advantages? Okay, is it superior? They are parallel, okay, they can work parallelly, right? But the thing is that now, which one is superior in productivity and all? Okay, what they observe that RF determination or TAC is found to be much more beneficial and conducive, okay, conducive for the starter. Why? Because in order to determine the log P for a particular compound, the compound need to be pure enough. If the compound is having impurity in it, what will happen? There is a false log P value that you can land up with. This is the first thing, right? The second thing is, whatever compound under study that you have taken, right, that should be soluble in either of the phases, right? If at all you found that any kind of particulates that are floating in that immiscible phases, what will happen? Definitely you cannot determine the log P value for the compound under investigation, right? That is the thing. So these are the two limitations, okay? Now let us just move to this RF or TLC. Whether this also facing this kind of limitations or not? Yes or no? That is. So in the process of dealing with TLC, you do not require the compound under study should be totally dissolved in that particular solvent, right? That means whether the compound is totally dissolved or partially dissolved, it will not hamper the study. This is the advantage over what? Over the partition coefficient. The second is, the compound need not to be pure. Okay, if the compound is impure also, you can run the show. Why? Because the impurity will not stick to the pure one. Why? Because as impurity is there, you can find a different RF for the impurity. It will not hamper the appearance of what? It will not affect the appearance of what? The pure compound. So that is another advantage. So with that we can nullify the disadvantages of what? Log P. Okay, log P. So that means we can say one in other way. So log P as well as RF. RF is found to be superior in productivity than that of log P. But the intention of the motto is found to, or the objective is found to be same in both the cases. That means whether the compound is hydrophobic or hydrophilic, because neither this log P partition coefficient nor this RF, okay, they cannot say the substituent contribution. They cannot reveal the substituent contribution, right? They can only tell you whether the compound in the study is hydrophobic or hydrophilic. Okay, so with that we are done with this hydrophobic feature or parameters or descriptors which are affecting the biological activity and considered for QACS study, 2D QACS study. So with that we are done with this one descriptors or multiple descriptors. Okay, one is there in your syllabus, that is log P. The other one is not there in your syllabus. Okay, now in my next video I'll deal with the next parameter, that is electronic parameters, right? How it is affecting, that is Hammett substituent constant. So with that we are putting a full stop for today's discussion. If you like my video, please share it to your friends and all, and please don't forget to press the like button, and please do subscribe my channel so that I can grow along with you, right? And don't forget to leave your comments as well, right? Your comments are very much important for me to grow in a suitable manner. Thank you very much.